Now it's lightning round. 3 quick predictions for 2022.
Black Series, already done that.
Mm-hmm.
Increasing interest in cars from 2010 to 2015 becoming collector cars. A low number build BMW, a low number build even Volkswagen, stuff like that. I mean, I think people are moving, and believe it or not, we're seeing the era of the collectible Audi.
Right.
Number 3 is that there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance of some of the pre-war cars. A lot of people who've built a car collection realize how cool it is to have these incredibly complex, incredibly complicated, and incredibly hard to drive cars.
Do you think this group of black cars, Black Series, we'll call them, is it going to outpace classic cars for 2022?
Wow, really good question. I think it already has. These are all, basically 2010 forward cars.
So we're talking instant classics, new cars like an AMG Black, a GT3, those kind of cars.
Right, and even Cadillac. I mean, right down to there. These cars that are distinctive and different, that aren't just a regular production car. It used to be 10,000 was the end of the world. I mean, that was a lot of cars. It's not a lot of cars anymore.
See, I think that's a lot of cars for Bentleys and Ferraris.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Do you think that will impact the resale values of, say, Bentleys and basically not Ferraris? Ferraris, I see them growing in their collector value, but Ferraris and some Lamborghinis, for that matter, Aventadors, Huracans that are not like crazy one-offs.
Collector car guys were the get out and get under people. They're not that way anymore. Number one, they're more difficult. Number two, they're more segmented. I mean, you used to be able to go to the auto parts store and get a gas filter. In some cars, try that. I mean, because they don't have a gas filter, they have multiple gas filters.
So what does that do to the value of a 64 GTO, a 68 Corvette?
It doesn't really affect the value of a GTO or Corvette because I think there are a lot of people who can still work on those cars. However, the number is declining. That's why we need to support education for for people who want to go into that sort of business or that sort of profession.
So do you see as a prediction for 2022 that cars like that, 64 GTO, 68 Corvettes, basically cars that are not in this Black Series, do you see them going backwards in value?
Not yet. Not yet, and I'm not sure they ever will go backwards. It's just that they won't rise as fast as they have been.
So kind of like what's happening in 50s cars.
Let me give you an example. Your generic Ford Model T 25 years ago was worth $25,000. Guess what it's worth now?
$25,000.
Bingo. Now, the dollar.
So technically, you lost money.
Oh, of course, but you didn't lose real dollars, but of course, opportunity cost. My God, you've lost a lot, and what the value of the dollar is now versus what it was 25 years ago. If I was a person who wanted to buy nothing but a cheap car and keep it forever, I wouldn't buy a cheap car. I'd buy a cheap pickup truck because cheap pickup trucks never get all that cheap because they have value in use. That's an appraisal term. But, everybody needs a pickup truck at some time or another, and everyone can justify it. And that's the difference between a car and a truck in some ways. So, I mean, all that sort of stuff comes into play, but I don't see a GTO, necessarily going down in value. It's just that it doesn't increase as much.
Okay, so let's put aside the cars for a minute. The market itself has changed. Like, just let's look forward right now. The folks don't know, but we're shooting this in mid-December. And we're a month away from Scottsdale. There's some changes in Scottsdale.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of players not going to be there, some in different forms. How is that going to have an impact on the collector car value?
It's really going to be interesting. I'll go through the route. We've got RM is only having one night of a sale.
Usually 2 nights.
Usually 2 nights. That's a very expensive sale to put on. They've got a ballroom at the Biltmore. I mean, that kind of says it all. They don't give those things away. Russo and Steele will not have an auction. Barrett-Jackson will be in their regular place. Of all the auction companies, Barrett-Jackson has the least changes that I see coming up. Worldwide will be like they were 2 years ago. They will have an event. One night in Wednesday on a Wednesday night.
Fountain Valley, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I've actually never been to one of their sales.
They're fun.
Any good?
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
Where are they? Are they like the Gooding side? Are they on the Meekum side? Where are they?
I would say they're slotted between Meekum and RM in terms of they're a catalog sale. They do a good job, and they get some unusual cars.
some quality cars.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
not always. I mean, and not that Mecum doesn't have quality cars. My God, they've got some great quality
He's
cars.
grown over the past couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they've gone up in the world in terms of what they sell. Different horses for different courses, and we'll talk about that at some point too. But the biggest difference I would say would be Gooding has decided to not have an actual in-person sale. They're having a geared online, they call it. So they will have the cars there, and they will be available for viewing for registered bidders. We'll see how it goes. I mean, once again, they're gonna hold it in an airplane
Why would
hangar.
they do that?
Hopefully, a heated airplane hangar. But
Yeah, what you guys don't know is we're shooting this in mid-December in California. I think it's warm. It was pissing down rain today, and it's like 40 degrees out right now.
it was warmer in Toronto today than it is in
Toronto,
Los
New
Angeles.
York, and D.C. It was
Right.
warmer, yes.
Exactly.
Anyway, go on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the effect is going to be. They could have an incredibly successful sale.
But why would they do that?
Well, I think it's expenses, to be real honest. I mean, it cost a lot of money to get that tent there. It cost a lot of money to have Charlie Ross come and
But you
and
just
be
told
the
us
auctioneer.
these cars like these are going up crazy numbers, more so than any other year.
Well,
Wha-
arbitraging risk is what they're doing, I guess.
Do you think it's, instead of arbitraging risk, do you think it's more there's just no supply even in the collector car world?
No, there's a big part of it is that the supply on the top end is very, very light right now.
And why is that? People just don't want to sell, or
Yeah. I mean, number one, tax rates are in flux right now. We don't know what they're actually going to be next year. Number two, people are putting cars in trust. So even if their kids don't want the collector cars in some cases, and that's, it's been ad nauseum, that's nothing new, but they can put them in trust and they can maintain them and keep them and use them as they would a block of gold or a stock or something like that and sell them.
leverage it.
Yeah, sell them at specific time. They think that blower Bentley is going to go up in value more over time than these other things, and plus they've already invested in it, so they don't have to pay the taxes to sell
Do you
it.
think there's enough second generation wealth that are no longer blowing their inheritances on hookers and blow? They're sophisticated enough to understand that there's market timing for these things.
There's so many things I could say right now. I'm going to go the straight route this time, and just say that I think there is another generation that is coming up that hopefully their parents talk to them about wealth, because we have a lot more millionaires in this country than we've ever had before, and a lot more billionaires in this country than we've ever had before. I think that there are a bunch of people who are making and I deal with these people in my appraisal business that are making very intelligent decisions about what they're going to do. They cull the collections, and they might get rid of the cars that they don't think are going to remain as valuable. But I mean, it's a close call. I mean, I think that Duesenbergs will always be a car that will retain their value, but maybe a second-tier Packard, not so much. Some of those choices are being made, and a lot of those cars are moving into the fun money group.
Let me stop you there. You've been doing this for a while, starting on the appraisal side,
Mhm.
and then went into the valuation side.
Mhm.
You've dealt with the people that have collections like this for, 20, 30 years?
30 years, yeah.
30 years
Yeah.
at this point. Has the sophistication of
Oh,
that
God,
person
yeah.
changed?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean there was
In
always
30 years or over the past year?
No, 30 years. 30 years. And I'm going to have to credit the internet for that. The biggest mover on that has been the cars and coffee movement. I mean, who has time to go to a car show that's 250 miles away where they're going to get there? They take the lawn chairs out of the back of the trunk and they sit there for the whole day. I mean,
Yeah.
what fun is that? It's really not any fun. And then you get a bowling trophy on your way home if you win something.
Yeah.
Whee! I mean, that your kids are going to throw away. Instead, the cars and coffee thing is community, and I think that's what's going on. And I think that's what Hagerty realizes, actually, because they have moved to a club style of membership. They're building a lot of these things. I think they're a little bit ahead of the curve there, which is a great place to be in building collector car community.
Is it a younger group of people buying cars nowadays than in the past years?
Very much, yeah. Yeah, the demographics really shift, and Hagerty has all that information. I wish I had it in front of me. We can tell who's quoting what in terms of their generation, because how old are you? Where do you live? So what's your zip code?
Is it
I don't
just the 93 RX-7s, 93 Supras, or are they quoting cars like this?
Yes. Yeah, millennials are quoting cars like this. This car is cross-generation. This is, like I said, this is our gold brick. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. I mean, it's like a solid investment that, it goes up, it goes down, but it always is worth something.
Now it's lightning round. 3 quick predictions for 2022.
Black Series, already done that.
Mm-hmm.
Increasing interest in cars from 2010 to 2015 becoming collector cars. A low number build BMW, a low number build even Volkswagen, stuff like that. I mean, I think people are moving, and believe it or not, we're seeing the era of the collectible Audi. Right. Number 3 is that there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance of some of the pre-war cars. A lot of people who've built a car collection realize how cool it is to have these incredibly complex, incredibly complicated, and incredibly hard to drive cars, and it becomes kind of a badge of honor to own some of these things and to drive them.
But wouldn't I? Okay, I'm a pilot, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would equate that to flying a tailwheel plane. Like, I have a tailwheel plane.
Right.
They are significantly harder to land. They are harder to do everything with, but you can do so much more with them because of that.
Right, exactly.
There's very few people that want those kind of planes, and as a result, they take a bit of a hit in terms of value. Like that one there, as a tail wheel's worth less than this one over here with a nose wheel, even though that one is faster and has more horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that as being somewhat contradictory, though, with the old cars, the pre-war cars? I don't see who would want to keep those, aside from Duesenbergs and things like that.
Well, Duesenbergs are not an easy car to drive. I mean,
I understand that, but like this car, it's valuable anywhere in the world.
Okay, think
but
of the people.
Packard isn't.
I would equate that to people who own yachts that are racing yachts. They're not doing it because it's fun. They're doing it because it's adventure, and I think the kind of adventure aspect of a very interactive pre-war car is part of the
And that's why you fly a tailwheel plane.
Exactly.
Because I just landed it on grass a week ago. It's wonderful.
Right. Exactly.
By design. So, do you see overall the pre-war cars having a renaissance in value, or just a couple of them like Duesenbergs?
Well, I don't think there's a renaissance in value. I think there's a renaissance in recognition.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
Yeah,
that's the part I didn't understand.
No, I mean, but the thing is, we've seen some record prices on Duesenberg. So but I think when that Packard with a sporting history or a sporting bodywork or something like that,
Dietrich body,
when it becomes a little bit more affordable, it becomes more accessible to other people, and so they expand out from just their 60s cars or their 70s cars or whatever, or even their 2010 cars, and they want to learn to do that. And it's a lot like a guy like you getting a pilot's license. It's not because you have to; it's because you want to.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's the thrill of the chase, and it's the thrill of the actual use of it.
So speaking of thrill of the chase, in many years that we've known each other, Scottsdale was always the forecast to the rest of the year.
The bellwether.
Now you have so many less entrants or events there, activations, whatever you call them. Is it still going to be the forecast for the rest of the year?
Remains to be seen. I've only seen a few cars at the Gooding sale. I have not seen the catalog for RM. I don't know what they have. Barrett Jackson, a lot of standard bred cars, a lot of cars you'd expect to see at auction, but I don't know what the surprises are yet this year, and I'm sure they're going to be full of surprises.
Is Mecum now more of a contender because there's less players in Scottsdale?
No, I would say they're being more of a contender because they've been growing in terms of becoming a contender. I mean, they have an auction almost every other weekend.
Incredible.
I mean, I have no idea how they handle those logistics, but I mean, they've got their own trucking company. That should tell you.
Is it a smart move for them to be off to the side in Florida when everybody's in Scottsdale?
I think it's very smart. I mean,
why is that?
It's a huge auction. It's thousands of cars, and they could hold it anywhere. I mean, it makes sense to hold it in a warm climate. Kissimmee has grown hugely, and it's now 10 days of auction.
Is it that long?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's it was a week, and now, I mean, I wouldn't want to be putting a really high valuable car on the Thursday of the sale that starts, the first Thursday, whatever, that concludes on the next Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, so let's put Mecum aside for a minute. We talked about some changes in Scottsdale. There's less players there. There's less cars. We've kind of poked at the idea of it being less supply. Do you think it has something to do with the advent of the bringer trailers of the world and more online auctions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that Bring a Trailer is the powerhouse, and that is not going to stay forever, most likely. I mean, because I think they're going to have maybe they'll be the top, but they're going to have a top line competitor coming in. We don't know who that's going to be. There's a lot of very small, online auction companies that are not going to make it. They're going to fail. That area is wide open for a second and third competitor.
So this is where we turn the episode around to you guys to weigh in the comments below to see if we are right, wrong, or perhaps we're missing an angle that we're not seeing at all. Let us know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoMan TV, all one word, MotoMan TV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And speaking of social, how can they find you?
The best way to do it is go to Hagerty.com/valuation tools.
Or you can follow him on Twitter, DH Kinney.
Yeah.
DH Kinney, Kinney.
Right. Not real active on Twitter right now. You can always find me on
But
Facebook.
he's there. And, of course, this is where we'd like to ask your help with the algorithm. What does that mean? Subscribe, notifications, but most importantly, click like and share these episodes with all your friends on your socials. Until Dave and I see you in the next episode, bis später.